Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lookout. It's fire season, I guess, kind of, sort of. It's we're on the cusp. So a couple new fires burning in Northern California, and so I thought we'd just jump in there and check them out real quick, talk about what's going on with them. There's a pretty ripping little fire in Southern California down in San Luis Obispo County. So real quick, we're gonna jump in. There's been lightning that went through in the last 3 days. It started a lot of small fires on the Klamath, on the Shasta Trinity National Forest, so kind of north and west of Redding. Not a lot of lightning and fires east of Highway 5 at this point, and not really any super significant fire behavior on these fires, but they're doing some stuff. We're still, as we've been talking about, early in the kind of seasonal moisture. Things aren't critically dry. We're not critically hot. It's not super duper windy, so we're not into kind of pure pucker season, but things are starting to kind of ease us in that direction. In general, when we're in Chico, if it's under 100 degrees, we don't say it's hot, and so it's not hot. It's summer. It's July. But when we start to get into 105, 108, 110, start to get that pucker going a little, but not quite there. So let's just talk about a couple fires here that are going on, and we'll this isn't going to be a real long broadcast. Okay, so we're going to talk first about the Summit Fire. If we look at Northern California, right here we got Red Bluff, Redding, Wairika up here, Klamath River, Happy Camp. So Summit Fire is here out in the backcountry, kind of northwest of Etna. And let me turn off this other fire because it's kind of distracting. So if we could come from Redding up I-5 to Wairika, if we go over here, this is Scott Valley here, Etna. This is kind of the closest real civilization to this Summit Fire that's burning out on the Klamath. And so here's the Marble Mountain Wilderness, which we have layer 4, I think. These green areas are wilderness areas. This is the Russian Wilderness, and this is the Marble Mountain Wilderness. So Summit Fire, it's a wilderness fire. It's burning west of Etna, up pretty high elevation, like almost 7,000 feet. So if it's, rule of thumb is about 3 degrees of temperature per 1,000 feet of elevation. So if it's 100 degrees in Chico, go up 6,000 feet, you expect it to be, maybe in the high 70s up high. So what's significant about this fire? Well, it's burning in the middle of nowhere. The Klamath is doing their darndest to put it out, because that's what they do. And there's some things that make this one kind of interesting, like we got the Shelley Fire right here that burned last year and therefore has no real fuel available in it. That's sitting between this fire and the town of Etna, and kind of between a lot of what we consider civilization in Scott Valley. Another thing about this fire, if we look at where there's structures nearby, yellow is structures. So, and a lot of these dots out here are just hallucinations by Microsoft's AI. They're not really structures. They're just something that a computer thinks looks like a tin roof. So you got civilization such as it were in Scott Valley over here. You got some people living over here on the Klamath River. You don't have, just pretend these yellow dots out here in the wilderness don't exist, because the computer made those up. Okay, so no threat to Etna anytime soon from this fire or Cheeseville because of this big fuel break that was created last year by the Shelley Fire. If we come in closer, they flew this fire yesterday, I think, with Virus, and we see that this area, this all burned in 2014 in the Happy Camp Complex fire. So if we look at our fire layers here, we like talking about this because it shows us where you've got areas that haven't burned forever. So you've got some areas out in here that haven't burned for a long time. But in general, this whole landscape has had lots of fire on it in the last 40 years. And that 2014 fire killed a lot of trees here, and so this is burning kind of in brush and snags and heavy dead and down material left over from the fire that happened 11 years ago. So this is not what you'd call a friendly place to be a smoke jumper or a hotshot, because first you've got to get into the area. Second, you have to figure out how to get around this fire on this steep ground with all these dead down logs and trees that want to fall on your head without getting smoked. And so this fire kind of sounds like it grew a bit last night. Maybe it was like 20 acres. Like when they flew it yesterday, it was just a couple acres. Yesterday at noon, it was 2 acres, but now it's bigger. It's like 10 acres. And just stupid place to be a firefighter. No fun. And in the big picture, this fire is going to burn up to, if they don't get a line around it, it's going to burn up to this rock here and be done. It's going to burn up to this rock here and be done. It might get over the top and burn into here, but this time of year, it'd be really surprising to me if this fire grows out of this basin. I think the PCT runs along the top here. Anyway, talked a little bit about this on Facebook last night. I think that firefighting sometimes is really dumb. And firefighting here in the middle of the wilderness at 6,000 feet on a fire that's burning in a 10-year-old burn scar, cleaning up the dead and down, is a frickin' ridiculous place to drop smoke jumpers and hotshot crews into to put out a fire that needs to happen. There's no other way. This is wilderness. There's no other way this land's going to get managed without letting fires burn. And that's just the way it is out here. Like, we're never going to like thin the wilderness. So we can wait and put out every fire out here until we have not enough resources. And it's summer and it's hot and dry and you get a big east wind and this fire comes cranking through here and blows down. Just devastates what's left of the timber there, or you can let it burn during this time of year and it'll underburn, and these trees that survived 10 years ago, and it'll do what fire needs to do. Lightning fires are started by God, and so who are we to think we should put them out? So Klamath National Forest, they're gonna brag on Facebook about putting out every single fire and expect you to like praise them in the comments, and I think it's ridiculous. The Klamath should know better. We all know better than putting out every last fire in the backcountry. Of course, it's not simple. Of course, the people that work there want to keep their jobs. I know the forest supervisor on the Klamath went to college with him, and he knows better. But I think the problem is that the Klamath National Forest, they think that they work for Siskiyou County. They think that they're the Siskiyou County National Forest. But the national forests are owned by all Americans. And so the Klamath is terrified to do anything that might piss off the Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors or anything else. But this is a national forest. This belongs to everyone in the country, and I think a lot of people in the country would like to see fires left to burn in this landscape. And I think when you turn on the fire history and see how much fire this landscape has had, it seems ridiculous to keep fire out of it. Keeping fire out of it is what gives us mega fires. I worked on the 2014 Happy Camp complex that burned this entire area. It was a devastating fire. It ripped. You can still see the effects of that. It ripped across this huge landscape that hadn't had fire before that, because of fire suppression, because of putting out every fire in the backcountry, and it was ecologically devastating, and it was terrible fire. So we're not going to have another one of those out here because this landscape is all kind of fragmented by. The more fire we get on this ground, the more we fragment it, the less likely we're going to have a mega fire. So enough said on that, on the Klamath. I say if the Klamath wants to keep putting out every fire, please don't ask us to like your post on Facebook. Next fire here is the horse fire. And Lori Madera says they want their 15-minute smart cities, and that's a dog whistle, if I ever heard one. You say smart cities, it opens up all the conspiracy theories you ever heard of in your whole life. Just like, yeah, UN Agenda 21, tinfoil, like smart cities. It's not a conspiracy. Living in cities ain't terrible. I'm not saying you should move to town, but that's not why the fires are happening. Okay, so you go from Lakehead over to Trinity Lake. What's interesting about this landscape here, this is the horse fire, took off this afternoon and did some stuff. This is not it. This is the horse fire here looking from Bear Mountain at Shasta. This is the horse fire. So this is all happened in the last, it started last night maybe. It's burning here, and the car fire, and it's, it's putting up a little column. It's interesting, you can see that there's a kind of pyrocumulus, like when the water vapor from the smoke is getting up into the atmosphere, it's starting to kind of ice cap, but it doesn't have enough heat and energy to really make that happen. There's another view of it looking from down kind of closer to Whiskey Town. This fire kind of made a slope-driven run this afternoon in heavy logging slash. There's good buildup happening over here by Shasta. Right now you see a lot of white smoke, don't see a lot of black smoke. It's just burning kind of in dry slash. This fire, I think, is probably not gonna amount to be a whole lot, but let's look at it here. I might be wrong, but if we look at the car fire, all in blue here, then you've got another fire here that burned in, I think 1999. Yeah, you've got the sheep fire that burned here, and then that reburned in the car fire. So you got kind of two fires in the last 25 years, so pretty reduced fuel loading landscape scale wise when you get across the ridge from this thing. Car fire itself, this area is checkerboard ownership, so if you look at an ownership map here, somewhere, you see that every other section here has been clear-cut salvaged, or not clear-cut completely, but salvage logged after the 2018 fire. And so this fire here that's burning today, the horse fire, it's burning pretty much exclusively in logging slash left over from the private timberland company logging this after the car fire. And these clear cuts have a lot of fine fuels in them, a lot of the smallish logs or branches and stuff that get left behind. I can see from the imagery here that this was maybe like cable logged, like they set up cables here and dragged logs up the slope. That tends to leave a lot of slash, but they might have like whole tree yarded. I don't really know what happened, but anyway, this fire pretty much is exclusively run in that clear cut area in the slash. We see that this area crosses creek to the south didn't get salvaged after the fire, so, and there's more shade, that being a north slope, so the fire is going to kind of have less opportunity, more shade, moisture fuels in the north slope. Hard to say what this fire is going to do. This is a property line here, and when you get to the property line where the fire is going to keep going, likely, I mean, this is a good place for tankers to really be hitting this because there's not a lot of, nothing to block the retardant. But if it does get up into this area up above, this is Forest Service land that was not salvaged. But this far after the fire, there might not be enough fuel in this to really carry the fire very well. A lot of this stuff hasn't fallen down. If there is brush out in here, this is a fall image, but if there's green brush out in here, the brush is going to be in its seasonal kind of peak moisture, and it's not going to be very flammable. So that's when you get over the top of the hill here, you're going to be in the shade. We're up at about 4,000 feet, so it's still pretty warm, but it'll be interesting to see what this one does and see if it actually does lay down when it gets into this area that hasn't been salvaged. So this is really tough terrain, and if the fire gets over into this next, if they don't get if they aren't able to hold it with the retardant before they get dozers and everything in there and gets over into this other drainage, it's going to be complex. But given the conditions we got right now with the amount of other things going on, good odds that this thing gets picked up here in the next 24 hours. All right. Said this wasn't going to be very long, and I got to stick to that. Other big thing that's happening right today is the Madre Fire. So we fly to Southern California. This is on Highway 166, kind of between Santa Maria and Nukayama, Maricopa. This fire really kicked ass in the last 2 hours. It's up to a couple thousand acres, and we'll show you a animation of that one. This is the first 2 hours of the fire, starting at about 1:30, and it quickly kind of got up in the brush and popped up a column. Ran several miles in that first 2 hours. One thing to say about this part of the landscape is that there's kind of no one really cares about what happens out here. Fires get pretty large here quite often, and if you look at where there's structures out here, there just aren't that many. In a landscape, for being kind of south coast, close to Southern California, there's nothing out here. It's just a bunch of super bad land and some ranches and other scattered stuff, but very little really resources to worry about burning, and nothing out here vegetation wise that's really damaged by fire. This is like the devil's frickin' whatever you want to call it, wrinkled scrotum. Just no one really cares. You could burn this all up and no one in California would even know. But it's ripping, and it'll take some resources, but not a lot out there to worry about. We've had some of our biggest fires in SoCal history in this area, like the Zaka fire that have burned out in these wilderness areas. This area gets low priority for resources when there's lots of other stuff going on, just because there's not a lot to be damaged by it. It's kind of not got a lot going for it. All right. Someone says an Orland, and they saw the Santa Maria pyrocumulus. Yeah, so they're flying a bunch of mud on it. So we love these animations for sure. I recommend you check out these alert cameras. Anyway, I gotta jump out of here. I just wanted to kind of jump in quick and talk about those fires, and jump up and down on my soapbox about the Forest Service putting out lightning fires. We'll talk about that a lot this season, but this is the time of year that I just get irritated that they're doing it. I understand that letting these fires burn now when they could burn all summer is non-optimal for lots of reasons, and that the people who are making these calls have impossible jobs. But I think in the big picture, unless we're willing to let fires burn in the backcountry in places like the Klamath, we're gonna lose our forests. And it's complicated to try to make it happen, and it's also very simple. And I'm not one to overcomplicate this stuff. I'm just going to tell you what I think. So that's why you watch Lookout, I guess. All right, people. Someone's asking about a 15-minute smart city. Look it up, but don't go down the rabbit hole. All right, thanks everyone. Catch you soon. Oh, I want to thank my sponsors, Q-Tech, Firebox, and Water Axe pumps. And we'll get better at incorporating their stuff into these broadcasts. But this is kind of just quickie, and if things really much happens this afternoon, I might do another one tonight. But we're getting back in.